HannaTalk.
What is up, Robotech fans? Simon here. Welcome to HannaTalk. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Today I am here with a very special guest. Now, she is an actress who is best known to fans as the voice of Lin Minmay from Robotech, but she's also played across in shows such as Rurouni Kenshin, A Little Snow Fairy Sugar, Ghost in the Shell, Code Geass, When They Cry, Metropolis, Tenchi Muyo, and so much more. Please welcome the amazing Rebecca Forstadt.
Well, hi there.
Hello, how are you?
I've been doing well. How about you?
I've been doing very well, absolutely. That's absolutely fantastic. I've been doing really well. It's a beautiful sunny day right here in Australia, and I can't imagine what the weather must be like in the States right now.
Well, normally it would be beautiful also, and it was yesterday, but we've had some really weird weather. It was like raining like crazy, which it never does here in Los Angeles. And today it was kind of on the cold side, but I think it's going to start getting warmer again.
That's no problem, but that's good though. That's fantastic. Now, obviously going into what's been happening for the last few years. Now, obviously with what's been happening with the virus and the pandemic over the last few years, how have you been keeping things up, especially on the acting side of things?
It's been a little bit difficult because before the pandemic, I was taking care of my boyfriend who had cancer, so I was sort of like isolated at that point too. And then there was the 3 years that happened, and now everything's all remote. Everybody's doing everything from home. So for a while, I wasn't living in a place where it was really, it didn't work very well because of a lot of different reasons, like I was right next to the freeway, or I had to move out of there, and then I was living in a little tiny house with a bunch of other people. So now I'm in a place where I have a studio in my closet. So it's taking up all the room that I would like to put my clothes in. So it's been a challenge for that. So I've kind of I'm trying to get back into it again. And in the meantime, I've been blogging and working as a social media influencer, which is really fun at my age.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it's funny that you mentioned about, of course, with having your own home studio and everything, because I've been doing the interviews over these last 3 years, and I've obviously been doing HannaTalk for nearly 8 years now. And over those last 3 years, I've noticed with a lot of voice actors that yes, they've gone to using their own home recording studios, but a lot of them have had their own home studios before the pandemic had even taken place. So it's almost like they were getting ready for what was going to happen, I guess.
Well, yeah, it was sort of starting that way. I mean, people were doing auditions, some auditions, I think, over the, in their home studios, but still people were still going to their agents, at least in Los Angeles, and, because it's a major market, whereas people from other locations, like Texas or whatever, were probably using their home studios more, but there were a lot of other actors too, that especially commercial actors, that were doing it from their home studios for quite a long time.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true, but that's fantastic though, nonetheless. Now, going across into obviously speaking about last time that we talked about is that you've been working across in both live action and in the voiceover world for so many years, and looking, which is a huge.
Hard to believe, really.
It's really hard to believe that. But
I'm
looking
still
back,
here.
exactly, and that's fantastic. That's amazing. Now, looking back across at your entire career, and especially in what you voice now, whenever you're playing a main character or a character that's featured prominently, whether in live action or in voice acting, do you have an idea for where your character is going in terms of the story and everything, or is everything recorded out of context?
Oh, yeah. Well, for all of the anime projects, which is what pretty much the bulk of my credits are, although I've done a lot of other stuff too, we never get a script ahead of time. So when we go into the studio, the script is just all of a sudden in front of us. So we have no idea what's going on in the story. And so we have to depend completely on the director to tell us what's happening and, how to play the character. And, it's different from a live, like an on-camera thing script and you have time to rehearse and all that. But yeah, it's kind of like it's a major cold reading when you're doing anime and a lot of other things too. I mean, even commercials or video games or even original animation, you really don't get that much of a chance to look at it. And then you come in and like for original animation, you'll come in and you'll be with the whole cast and do table reads and stuff. And I think that's kind of how you get your character going and figure out what it is you want to do with it.
That's fantastic. And it's funny that you mentioned about, of course, with table reads, of course, because there have been examples of that before in the past. Best example, I think, was during the series Game of Thrones. Specifically, that was the final season, where regardless of how people feel about the final season of Game of Thrones, there was a video that showed across each of the actors going through a table reading of the scripts, and just seeing their reactions to like what happened in the last few episodes was like insane, absolutely insane. So that's pretty cool and stuff like that. And that's also a bit of a thing as well, where you've got actors, specifically voice actors that visit Comic-Cons, that actually do table readings or live readings of scripts in the past. Has that ever happened to you before? Have you ever done that before with any of the Comic-Cons you attended?
You mean on a panel? Yeah, there's a guy he does chilling with the voice actors. And I did one just recently. It was in Pasadena, and he just came up with a script, and the funny thing was there were no female characters in it. I was like the only female, so I just had to read some guy's part, so really there wasn't a whole lot I could do with it.
Wow,
that's come on, guy, there are women, like some parts of some women. But it was kind of funny. But yeah, he does that all the time. I haven't really done that. Mostly when I do a panel, it's usually just me, or maybe there's a group of people from the same show, like Robotech, or just some voice actors just talking about voice acting. But yeah, I know that has been happening lately.
That's awesome.
That's fun.
Absolutely.
Fun
Absolutely. No, that is fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, speaking about, of course, with like obviously talking a fair bit about anime. Now, as many people know, especially a lot of long-time anime fans, anime is typically based on manga, which is like which is basically the equivalent to comic books in the States and outside Japan, of course. Have you ever read the manga for any work that you starred in or worked on?
No, I haven't. No. Because when I first started, which was like 100 years ago, pretty much. I didn't even know. I mean, I really didn't know what anime was. None of us really did when we first started, except for in the 60s, we used to watch these cartoons like Kimba the White Lion and Speed Racer, but we didn't really know that they were different from other cartoons. So, we didn't really, the people that are more my age, we didn't start out as fans, where there's a lot of new voice actors who started off as fans. So, because they were watching us doing stuff, and so they know all the stories, they know everything, that's going on. They do all these streaming things, and so yeah, it's kind of a generational thing, I guess.
No, that's fantastic though, and especially if you've also got like voice actors. Like best example I can give, I remember these a couple of interviews that I did over the last few years with Aaron Roberts and Amber Lee Connors, who are huge fans of the properties that they starred in. They actually started reading the manga before they got cast in a lot of the works they played in now, long before that, and they said that it actually influenced their performances as actors just because they were such huge fans of the property. But at the same token, you've also got actors like Joshua Seth, who most people remember from the Digimon world and from Cyborg 009, where he spoke about that he would go in completely unprepared and say, don't read ahead, just go in there completely surprised. So...
Oh yeah, I worked on Digimon also. I actually wrote a bunch of Digimons, so I know Joshua really well. Yeah, that's the way it was. We didn't read stuff. We weren't fans of anime so much because we didn't, like I said, we didn't grow up with it. But a lot of the newer actors, the younger actors, that's what they grew up with. So they got really, really into it, and that's what actor, and they're basically fans. And I'm like, well, you have to study acting, and that's kind of part of the deal of being a voice actor. So, not all of them are able to do that, but some of them have. They've really been doing some really great work.
Absolutely, and that's fantastic. Now, speaking about a little bit further on the anime side of things, now, as many people will know, there have been constant discussions across the internet through like the Japanese versions of anime versus the English dubbed version of anime, which has led this huge debate on sub versus dub work. What's been your opinion on all of that?
Well, I can understand that because I know that when I watch a foreign film, like a live action film, I prefer to watch the original with the subtitles just because I want to see the actors. But for American audiences, they don't always understand the Japanese culture that much. So, a lot of things had to be changed so that they could really understand what was going on and make it entertaining, because not everybody, is able to read the subtitles. And so there's a definite audience that prefers that. But I know that there's that love and hate kind of thing going on where, it's like people, either hate it or they love it. So, it's a specific audience that wants to see that. And I think for American audiences, especially having done the adaptations, doing the scripts for some of those for a while. I don't do that anymore because it drove me nuts, but it's really excruciating actually. But we would get these translations and they just didn't make any sense at all. Like Digimon was a really good example because there was one script that I got, and this was done for television, so we had to do it, for an American audience, we had to do it in English. And, would go through the broadcast standards and everything. And so there's things in the Japanese culture that just don't work on American TV, at least not, during that time when there wasn't streaming where anything goes, right? And there was this one episode where I was writing it, and the whole thing revolved around little pieces of turd. I mean, seriously, it was like little pieces of poop, like little twirly things, and so I couldn't write it like that's what it was.
Oh.
So I had to make it into something else and, call it like Digidrops or something. But, you can look at it and go, that's a turd. So, that's part of the reason that we dub it into English, I guess.
I definitely
can. Plus, it's a cartoon too, so it's not like you can make things fit the lips much easier than you can with a live action thing.
No, but that's fantastic though, and I definitely can understand that, of course, because obviously looking across at like both like sub versus dub versions of a lot of different animes out there, as you mentioned about before, typically like depending on the company that works for it, the best example I can give is like 4Kids Entertainment, which was famous for doing Pokemon and of course like a whole bunch of other shows. Because of the way the 4Kids worked as a company, they had to promote that sort of stuff to younger audiences, so the original versions of a lot of the stories had to be toned way down to fit to a younger audience. But the downside to that, however, is best example is like with One Piece, that because they had to edit out so much from the series, they unfortunately got rid of stuff that was going to be very vital to the story later on down the track. But you've also got companies like Funimation, for example, and Viz Media, which are not afraid to bring it across to general audiences, depending on what the property is, I guess.
Yeah, well, they're doing that. They've been doing that for quite a long time. In Los Angeles, also, like Bang Zoom and Magnamade and some other companies that were doing it. They got to the point where people really wanted it to be closer to the Japanese. So when we first started, when we were doing Robotech, and that was supposed to be for television too, we would, like, the writers would write stuff in the blank spaces, where people weren't talking, because they felt that, you had to keep up the pace and couldn't have all these silent things going on. But now they're keeping it very close to the Japanese, and so when we go in and do the then we, try to imitate that, and keep it as close to the original as possible. But, it just depends on where the piece is going. Like, if it's going into streaming, it doesn't matter, they'll show it whatever it is. But if it's going on television on a major network, then sometimes, or if it's geared towards kids, they have to be a little bit more careful.
Absolutely.
Because there's stuff in there that's like, it's kind of like into pedophilia, and it's into a lot of nudity and, things like that. So it just depends on where it's going, I guess.
Absolutely. That's definitely true. And that's fantastic that a lot of these companies are able to recognize that. They're able to bring it across to general audiences, but also being aware of the properties that they're working with and saying, nah, this is not going to work for kids. Let's screen this across to the adults, that sort of thing. So that's fantastic, though. And speaking about, of course, with Robotech, now one of your most popular roles was Lin Minmay from Robotech, and we spoke about how you got the role and everything, but what is it like playing that character in a franchise like Robotech?
Well, it was fun. I mean, it was, when we first started there, we were doing a bunch of anime stuff, but it never went anywhere. We didn't know, it kind of went off in the wind somewhere. And Robotech just became really, really popular, but not so much when we were doing it. When we were recording it, it really became popular just right after that. And so, it was kind of like another job to us. We didn't know what was going to happen with it, but we sort of had a sense that something might, because it just seemed to be a little bit bigger than some of the other projects. And it was fun. We were doing that at all times of the night, even, like, really weird hours. Like, some people were coming in at 2 in the morning to record after doing a performance of a play or something. Like, I did that. I was doing a play for a long time, and we'd come in afterwards to record a little bit, which was a little strange because you're kind of loopy at that point. But yeah, it was so much fun, and there was always like a lot of people in the studio, which you don't have anymore. They might be in different rooms and stuff, but we could all kind of connect with each other, and that made it a lot of fun. So, we got to become a really close-knit group of people, and we worked with each other for years and years and years until really the last 10 years or so, where everything started changing a lot, and stuff started going into different locations. Like, mostly it was Los Angeles or New York or Vancouver, and then all of a sudden it was Texas, and now it's like people are recording from everywhere on the planet. Doesn't matter where they are, as long as they have Skype or they have Zoom or Source Connect or whatever they have.
That's fantastic, though. That's absolutely wonderful, and especially like with Robotech, because that was coming at a time when anime was during the 80s, where anime was big at that time, but obviously didn't get much bigger until I think Neon Genesis, until the 90s ended up happening, specifically when Neon Genesis Evangelion happened at that time, and that's when kind of put anime onto the roadmap, so to speak. But you've got these other anime properties that have started all of that, and it's now just getting bigger and bigger as we go along, which is just absolutely fantastic. And
yeah, I think Robotech, because it was on television, whereas a lot of the other stuff wasn't. I think it really did bring in a lot of other anime because it became so popular. I mean, it's still popular now, and people, I still have a whole bunch of fans popping up all over the place from all over the world, which is amazing.
That's fantastic. And will we hope to see you come back into the Robotech franchise down the line?
I don't know. They keep talking about stuff, but you never know what's going to happen. I was, the last I heard, they were trying to do a live action Robotech, which obviously I wouldn't be right for. I'm like 40 years older than that.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully, you always hope that they're going to still use your voice when they come back with something, but sometimes that doesn't always happen. I think that Robotech's so, people know it so well that it would be hard to not bring back the original voice actors, but some of them aren't here anymore, so.
But no,
there's always that issue.
That's true. That is definitely true. But my question to the listeners out there, let me know in the comments below, what do you want to see them do with the Robotech franchise going forward? And if they ever plan to do a live-action Robotech movie, leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Rebecca Forstadt make a Stan Lee cameo in the live-action movie. That would be so amazing.
I was afraid to see their answers. No, please no. I had a lot of like Min-May haters too, you know, like they either loved Min-May or they hated Min-May because they wanted, you know, Rick to be with Lisa, so it was always kind of really funny that way. They thought that I was so ditzy and everything, and you know, she was very serious and
but no, that would be fantastic though. That would be amazing though. Now, going into one of the other shows, that was actually my intro to your work from a long, long time ago, was A Little Snow Fairy Sugar. What was it like playing in that series?
Oh, that was a lot of work actually. She was, you know, she was just a real squeaky little thing that had a lot of lines, and during part of the series I got bronchitis, I remember, and I was having such a hard time doing that part. Because there's a couple of the episodes where I sound kind of like my voice sounds really rough, and that's why. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. That was in a little studio that we were working in. I can't even remember the name of it anymore, but we were working. That was another one that was where we were working at night too, which is unusual now. You usually work during the daytime, but.
Wow.
Yeah, I had fun with that one.
That's definitely true, and that's fantastic. It was definitely an amazing series, and I thought that you and all the other actors across the board did a fantastic job in the show. It was so fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And
well, you know, we had been working together. I mean, it was really pretty much the same group of people for a long, long time since we first started over. You know, where we were doing Robotech, and you know, after a while we got better and better at it, and you know, I guess it worked better. And the technology improved a little bit too.
Absolutely, and definitely one of the things about that show, even though it was pitched as kind of like a very like anime for kids and all that kind of stuff, there was a lot of deeper themes behind the series, exploring the idea of grief and death and overcoming that grief, especially when it got to the later parts of the series, which I thought was, wow, this is fantastic. It was a beautiful series, and I'm really hoping that like they'll get to do a revival series of that show at some point. That would be amazing.
You know, I found that a lot in a lot of the Japanese anime is that it's not just like these just frivolous kind of cartoons, sort of like Hanna-Barbera. It's just, you know, there's a lot of deep context to it that, you know, especially like when it comes to like, you know, you'll often see a lot of destruction, things going on, and a lot of that I think has to do with the fact that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, and you know, people went through a lot of stuff. So that, you know, I think that a lot of the themes of the animes kind of reflect that a lot.
That's true. That is definitely true, and I think that's fantastic nonetheless anyway. But that's fantastic. Now, going a little bit further into another series was Ghost in the Shell. We of course had the live action movie with Scarlett Johansson. Did you ever watch the movie yourself?
I did, yeah, I did.
And
it was a lot different than the cartoon, obviously, and I wasn't even in it. My part wasn't in it. I was the Tachikomas, which I thought were really cute, but yeah, it was, you know, they're always different. I was trying to watch Cowboy Bebop also, which is similar, and I couldn't get through it actually. It just wasn't my thing, I guess.
No, but that's fantastic though. I mean, obviously when it comes to anime adaptations, even though we've gotten a lot of successful video game adaptations over the last few years, anime I think has been the one thing that they've yet to fully nail in the live action universe. Unless they're doing it in Japan, of course, where it originated from. Those live action adaptations tend to be more successful, as opposed to like when it's not in Japan, when it's outside of Japan. But obviously because we're going to be getting the One Piece live action series later this year, fingers crossed they're going to finally break that curse. But no, that would be. But who knows exactly? But fingers crossed that the curse will finally be broken. I actually enjoyed the Cowboy Bebop series for what it was, even though I found the anime to be a much stronger like series than that. But I felt like with the live action version, they're slowly starting to get that extra step closer to saying, you know what, we can do great live action adaptations of anime. We just have to get the right people on board. We have to get the creators involved in this, and we have to make sure we respect the source material as much as possible. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there was anything wrong with it. It's just like I usually steer away from action movies myself, just being a girl. but no, I mean, yeah, I think it's really flattering actually that they're doing live action versions of it. I mean, it really shows how popular those types of stories are.
absolutely.
And,
No,
yeah, no, it's great.
no, that's fantastic. Now, going into another anime series was Rurouni Kenshin. Now, I actually discovered that there were two dubs on the series, where you played Kaoru in one of them, and Dorothy Fan had played her in another version of the series. How did that end up coming about?
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, I wrote scripts on both of them, and I did play the lead in it was called Samurai X, is the name that they called it. And what happened is that it was sort of that thing where the version that we did, our director or the person that was kind of putting it all together was making it a little bit more humorous and more, I guess, more Americanized, whereas the second version was much more truer to the Japanese. So that was sort of that was really during that time when things were changing over, so that we were getting away from making it more Americanized and really going back into the original version. And
Wow.
but then I ended up being on both of them. It was kind of a bummer though, because I was like, no, when I played Kaoru, but that happens, things like that happen. Sometimes, somebody will take over your part and you go like, wait a minute.
But nah, that's crazy though. But you at least still got to play in Rurouni Kenshin in like guest appearances and all that kind of stuff. And what was it like playing in such a series like Rurouni Kenshin?
Well, I mean, most of my experience was the first version of it, so it was really fun because our director was Michael Sorich, who's just like a crazy person. He's just nuts, and he's funny, and so it's just a lot of fun to work on. And and then it went over to Bang Zoom, which I worked at a lot also. But it's just a different feeling. But I ended up writing scripts for both of them, so that was bizarre.
But no, that's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And speaking a little further on Rurouni Kenshin, we of course are supposed to be getting the reboot series, which they've been talking about for the last few years. What's been your opinion on anime being rebooted?
Like rebooted, like recast or redone by somebody else, or?
More redone by someone else, I think.
Oh, I hate it. Like, yeah, I mean, well, sometimes they think you're dead already, so they don't even bother to call you. It's like, oh yeah, she's too old, I'm not gonna call her. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's fine. It just depends on where it's being done and who's doing it, because there's certain places that I think the quality is better than other places. So it just really depends on who's doing it, and hopefully you get recast in your role. But I think sometimes people aren't even aware of who was cast in the roles.
Wow.
So
I think
like the other day I got an audition for Digimon, which I was like, what? They were doing some reboot thing of Digimon, and part of the reason they were doing it was because, or they were redubbing some of it, and part of the reason they were doing that was because a couple of the characters passed away, so they had to do voice matches for them.
wow.
But I had another experience they were to cast somebody else as Mihoshi, and I'm like, what? You know, I mean, everybody knows me as that, so. Yeah,
Wow.
sometimes you have to keep them on their toes, I guess.
That is definitely true. I mean, especially looking back at across a lot of the anime that's been rebooted over the last few years, like the Digimon Adventure series that we got a few years back after the Digimon movies, which ended the original era of Digimon at that time. Obviously, like a lot of people, obviously they brought back most of the original cast. I think they brought back. I expected they were going to bring back some of the original cast members for that. But in other cases, you've also got anime like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and Fruits Basket. When they did the reboot series, they brought back most of the original cast members and kept it and tried to keep it as more accurate to the source material as possible. They haven't spoken too much about the reboot series for Rurouni Kenshin, but I feel like it's going to be an amazing. I think it's going to be a fantastic reboot, and I definitely feel like they'll go after the original cast members in that. But let me know.
So they're doing that one again? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I didn't even know that.
They are planning to reboot the series, but keeping it more accurate to the original version of the manga. When the original version of the story happened, especially when it got to the final season, they didn't fully adapt the original story from the manga. They went off into a completely different direction after the Makoto Shishio arc. So for this reboot series, they're giving it the exact same treatment like Fruits Basket and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, where they're going to be adapting the full-on story in its entirety from start to finish. That's what I've heard about anyway.
Well, that makes sense because, like I was saying, that there was that transition period where we were going through making it very Americanized and then less Americanized, more Japanese, but maybe not completely. And so now, because it's gotten purer and purer over the years, and because we can show things on television that we couldn't before, so that I can see that happening.
Absolutely, and it would be fantastic to have you back in the reboot series. If they can manage to get the original cast members to come back for the Rurouni Kenshin reboot, just like they've done with previous reboots in the past, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Then anything is possible at this point.
I'm sort of going through this thing now where I'm like, I'm a certain age, but I still have the same voice. And so they don't know what to do with me because there's all these 20-year-olds who can play, young kids, but they can also play adults better than me. So it's a weird thing because now there's a huge amount of competition with where we didn't have it before. We really had a really insular group, and now it's just like there's thousands and thousands of voice actors all wanting roles. So it's are you going to bring back the 70-year-old old lady, or are you going to bring back a 20-year-old? I don't know. It's a little weird. It's different than being a guy, where a guy can play all these craggy old parts and stuff, and but for a girl's voice, my voice just didn't change very much. I don't think it has. I think it's the same voice.
Well, it definitely sounds that way, but there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. And it's obviously you've got like one of the most iconic voices in anime history, and it's so recognizable from the character. Like you can instantly recognize it just from listening to it. Same way with Sandy Fox, with Steve Bloom, and with Joshua Seth, even Crispin Freeman as well. That's like you just know the types of characters that you fit into really well, and you do it brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly.
Well, thank you. I need that kind of feedback. That sounds good.
But I would love to see you come back in the reboot series, especially and even the original cast members as well. That would be fantastic. But
yeah, I would too. I don't even remember what I played in the second version of it, but I remember the first version more. I didn't have that big of a part in the second version, but I was busy writing scripts for it at the time.
I think there was a lot of guest appearances in the second version of the series, so even if it's just to do that would still be fantastic though. That would be really, really amazing. Now going across into another series, which is Code Geass, what's it been like playing in that franchise?
Well, that was a whole different role for me, really, because I usually was playing these like little feisty little girls, like kind of loud, obnoxious little girls sometimes. And this one was very, much more subdued, and so it was good for me because as I get older, it's a little harder to do things like screaming and things like that. So I enjoyed it, but we did the first part of it,
That is definitely true.
Not just like Spirited Away, which is like more of a studio thing, but some of these other ones are, I guess Netflix is putting out quite a few too.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, and that's fantastic though. Especially when you look across like a lot of anime properties, like from way back then in the past, these franchises, they're still continuing to build out franchises left, right, and center. Like Code Geass is the best example. Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball is another example of that, where they started going back into the building out the films a fair bit, even building out the franchise quite a fair bit during that as well. But you've also got like a lot of anime properties that have only just been like one-offs, and that's usually it. So, which I understand, of course. I totally understand that they only just want to do like one-off projects and not try to build it out to like the next Dragon Ball, the next Pokemon, or anything like that. But it's each their own, I suppose.
yeah, I guess it depends on who's marketing it and, the distribution that they get for it. It's just, it's kind of a hit and miss kind of thing.
It can be like that.
What's going to become popular or not. I'm surprised that some of the ones, just like they become really iconic, some of the ones that I was in.
Absolutely, and will continue to be iconic for a long, long time to come. I have no doubt about that. But what would you put? But obviously, since coming back into the Code Geass movie, quite a number of years ago, what would you personally want to explore in Code Geass going forward, if they were to ever do like another movie or another TV show?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I mean, I would hope I would continue on as Nunnally. Or did she get killed? I don't know. I don't think she did. I don't remember. My problem is I can't even remember the stories after I finished them because it's so disconnected because I never read the script, so I don't really know what's happening in each of those stories. And because I was, not as young as some of the other actors, so it wasn't like anime wasn't something that I was watching all the time either. It was more like I was coming in and doing my gig. I mean, I know that sounds awful, but it's just like, half the time, most of the projects I did, once we finished it, we had no clue where it was going. So, maybe it might have come out in a video game, I mean, in a video store at some point. Not, of course, they don't come out that way anymore, but, but yeah, we didn't stay as connected as the actors do now because they grew up with watching them.
Wow, that's fantastic though. But fingers crossed that hopefully another movie and TV show comes down the track at some point, because that would be fantastic. Now,
I'd love it. I'd love to come back on any of them. I'm available.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, going across into the other projects you've worked on, you've also worked on franchises such as Tenchi Muyo, which you've talked about a little bit, the When They Cry series, Metropolis, Hey Arnold, Mobile Suit Gundam, Danganronpa, Rosen Maiden, and Magic Knight Ray Earth. What was it like working across all these different projects?
Well, a lot of them were at Bang Zoom, which so it was all at, this one studio, so we knew everybody, and but like Metropolis was really exciting. That was really one of my favorite ones that I did, because we filmed that, or we voiced that at Sony Studios, which is really exciting.
Wow.
And they just really got into it. We spent like way more hours than we were originally gonna spend on it, because they were really trying to get it to be perfect. And it was just so beautiful. It was a beautiful cartoon, beautiful animation. I thought it was like kind of beyond a lot of the other stuff that I'd seen. Some of it's, not as, I don't know, as finished, I guess, but it was beautiful.
No, that's fantastic.
I did watch that one, and that was I really enjoyed that one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely wonderful.
And the other ones I'm trying to think. I guess a lot of them were at Bang Zoom, so they were pretty much at the same studio. Or at Magnum 8. That was I never really connected to all the different companies, because there were a lot of different companies that were distributing. Can't even talk. Distributing them. turning into Joe Biden. um, yeah, there was a couple of studios that we worked with all the time, and they did some really great work.
That's fantastic. No, that's absolutely wonderful. Now, going a little bit further into the series Hey Arnold. Now, when the movie was released quite a while back, which served as kind of the series finale for Hey Arnold, were you ever asked to come back into the movie, like as your previous character?
No, I played a guest. I was a guest part. I wasn't one of the regular cast in it. I wish I was. I'd be like really rich right now. Oh, wait, I was looking for my mic. Yeah, I played a guest part on that, but it was really fun because when I went in there, all the actors were there, so I was doing a scene with Dan Castellaneta and some of the other actors, and that was just really fun.
Wow.
That was great. That was a big time kind of thing.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, going a little bit further into the video game world, now we've been having so many video game adaptations done over the last few years, from Sonic the Hedgehog to The Last of Us, and recently the Super Mario movie. What's like one game that you've worked on would you want to see turned into a film or TV show?
I don't know. You're asking this old lady this. I don't know. Well, Danganronpa seemed to be like a really popular series, but it was the same thing. We would come in, and all we're doing is we're doing these lines, without the other actors there, and just seeing a script in front of us. So I didn't really know what the whole thing was about because I've never played a video game. I mean, seriously, I've never played a video game in my life, so I wouldn't know.
No, but that's fantastic. I think Danganronpa would be a really interesting choice, actually. That would be a pretty fun one to see as like a film or a TV show. Whether that's live action or animation, who knows exactly. But if they can manage to do like all these adaptations from Sonic the Hedgehog, Last of Us to the Super Mario movie, anything is possible at this point. So they'll bring out anything at this point. But,
well, those are all like Super Mario were done by a big studio too.
yes.
I mean, that was
by Nintendo, of course. So anything is possible at this point. Yeah, but that would be fantastic. Now also we've been getting a lot of revival series from anime and cartoon shows over the last few years. What's like one anime or cartoon series that you've worked on would you like to see a revival of?
I don't know, maybe Robotech? No. That probably wouldn't happen, but I don't know. I mean, I've done a revival of of an original one, like Akira. We did, after the original one was done, and then Speed Racer was done, and I did a part in the one version of it. Not the original, obviously, because that was when I was a kid. But yeah, I don't really know.
No.
Maybe no, they did Cowboy Bebop. Let's see what else. What's another iconic thing that I did?
I personally would love to see like a revival of the Zatch Bell series. That'd be pretty cool, actually, because you did a guest appearance on Zatch Bell. I think more than a few guest appearances on that, and I would love to see them do a revival of Zatch Bell, in keeping it more accurate. Even if it's just like a reboot of the original, of doing a reboot of the original story and bringing back the original cast members from that would be fantastic. That would be pretty amazing to see. Now, looking back across at your entire career, where do you hope to see yourself with regards to acting and entertainment in the long run?
Oh my God, I don't know. I'm like, right now, after coming back from the pandemic and then, dealing with the whole thing with taking care of my boyfriend, I'm sort of like at this point right now where I'm going like, okay, like how do I jump back into the, jump rope? Because it's been really, a lot of stuff has happened in all that time, and I just wasn't in the position to be able to really it. Unfortunately, I mean, I want to. It's not like I retired or anything, hardly. But I started doing this, social media influencing with blogging, and it's actually been really fun because, a lot of the commercials anymore are on social media. So, like, I've been doing things on Instagram where I'm promoting products for brands and things like that, which is, another form of voiceover. And I've also started a couple of YouTube channels for both of those things. I've got a blog it's primarily a lifestyle travel blog for women over 50, and then I've got a Los Angeles travel blog. So I've got a YouTube channel for each of them, and I've been playing around with those and trying to see if I can get a lot of subscribers and views and all that stuff, which is it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. And so I get to use all my acting chops doing that, and just hoping that I start getting cast again and stuff.
That's fantastic. No, that's absolutely wonderful. Now, a bit of a fun question here, and this is a bit of a head scratcher on this one. What two shows have you worked on would you want to see a crossover between, story-wise and character-wise?
A crossover? Like, what do you mean by that?
So kind of like when they have two shows and they crossover like the characters and the stories together in like a
crossover
just
into another series?
Yes.
Wow, that's a hard question. Yeah, you're right. It's a head scratcher. I don't know, like Minmay meets Nunnally. I don't.
That'd be pretty cool, actually, like a Code Geass Robotech crossover. That would be an interesting one, actually.
Yeah.
Especially because we've had so many crossovers between like two completely different anime, actually even three anime together at the same time with like Dragon Ball and One Piece. Then, yeah, because we've seen
I mean, Robotech was a whole crossover of three different series in a way. Macross and Southern Cross and the other one, I can't remember.
So there's a crossover in and of itself already. So a crossover within a crossover.
Started off as a crossover, yeah.
A crossover within a crossover within a crossover, just going full Inception right there. But no.
Yeah, I never thought of that. That's a new one on me.
But no, I think a Code Geass Robotech crossover would be pretty amazing to see, actually. That would be pretty cool. And looking back across at your entire career as an actress, what would you say has been like the most challenging role for you to play?
You mean in anime?
Yeah, I'd say particularly in animation, yes.
Oh, I think in Metropolis, Tima, the robot, because she was just, it's just like, it's very subtle, and you just had to be so precise, and, it was trying to, she's really an iconic character in herself, because it's, taken from that original Metropolis silent film, and, yeah, it just was, that was a lot of work. I mean, it was a very serious one, too. I mean, because it was over at Sony.
Wow.
Also.
No.
And then I also starred in two movies. I had starring roles in two films. I wouldn't say that they were, like, necessarily difficult, but, that was, I starred in it was in the 1980s, and it was called Muggsy's Girls. And now it's called Delta Pi. It kind of changed, but it was starring Ruth Gordon and Laura Branigan, the singer. And it took place in a sorority, and I was one of the sorority members, the nerd in the sorority, and Ruth Gordon was the house mother. She was I don't know if you know who she is, but she was Maude in Harold and Maude in the film. This older lady. She was like 89 years old at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I starred in another film where I had a major role in another film called Round Numbers with Kate Mulgrew and Shani Wallace and Samantha Egger, and Marty Ingalls, playing a crazy receptionist in a health spa that they go to.
Wow, That's fantastic, though. That's absolutely wonderful. And
Yeah.
looking back across your entire career with all the characters that you've done, what has been like one character or series that you've ever wanted to play or ever wished that you played?
Um, I don't know. I really don't know. It's not like, I don't, because I'm not like watching animes and stuff. I don't really know what's out there. Um, and it's no offense to any fans. I'm just much older, and it just wasn't in my. I didn't grow up with it, but
But
other
no.
than working on it.
But no, but no, that's totally alright. But that's fantastic. And looking across at like the whole of the voice acting and the animation industry, what's been your opinion on where the voice acting and the animation industry stands within the entertainment industry as a whole?
Oh, that's a good question because it's very frustrating actually. I mean, it's really great that there's all this stuff out there, but unfortunately, because people are working at home and they're working from everywhere, a lot of people are working non-union because most of us that have been working for a long time are all in the union, which protects actors. So a lot of people are working for under the going rates. They're doing stuff for Fiverr. They're just it's just making it really difficult because if you're in the union, you want to do union work, and there's hardly any left except for original animation, which is difficult to get into. There's always been this small group of people that do the original animation or celebrities that do it. And yeah, it's very frustrating because you see all these people on Twitter and they're all like they've got all these rosters of voice actors, or people go, "Hey, voice actors, I've got a part for you," and like 200 people put their demos on this Twitter thread. It's
Wow.
so bizarre. And then they're all working for nothing. So, it's good that they're trying to get more union work in, but I don't know what's going to happen with it.
No,
And then
that's
the fact that you're working from home and you don't, we weren't trained to be engineers. We were trained to be artists. We were trained to be actors. And so it's a whole different, you're using a right brain, left brain kind of thing. So you can't, it's difficult to get the sound right, and you've got a dog barking, or you've got the gardener coming by, or somebody in the next room making a lot of noise. It's very challenging. Like, you should see my closet. I mean, I'm in this tiny little closet. When it gets hot in the summer, and it can get like over 100 degrees, and you're sweating and you're about to pass out. I mean, I can't sit in that closet in the middle of summer. Like, I'm looking forward to hopefully going back into a studio, which has started to happen, but not. A lot of people are still working at home, and they probably always will from now on. So I don't know what's going to happen, and the competition has gotten fierce. Like I said, there was like smaller groups of people doing what we did in this market, and now it's everywhere. Like, you could be in the middle of Timbuktu, and you could phone in a voiceover.
No, I definitely understand that, of course. It reminds me of this one interview that I do with Mike Pollock, who most people remember as Dr. Eggman from the Sonic the Hedgehog games, right down to the animated stuff, where he spoke about that exact same thing. And where I mentioned this one actor named Carl McCarley, who many people remember from Mob Psycho 100, where he posted up a video talking about why he was leaving the role because of the whole union part of it, which was like, wow, that is insane.
Oh yeah, I heard something about that. Or there was some show where a lot of actors were leaving it for some reason, and I think it had something to do with that. Yeah, it's bizarre. It's just the whole business is completely changed. And then the other thing that I really hate about it is that they've got all these pay to play sites where actors have to pay a fee to audition for a whole bunch of stuff. And that's ridiculous. Like, that's a scam as far as I'm concerned. I
that's great that you believe that way as well, and that's honestly for me is really not acceptable in that sense as well. That's just wrong. And also, just as you were talking about, of course, with getting like the different different vocal alikes or voice alikes to take over for previous actors and stuff. I understand, of course, in like films and like big animated movies, they want to go after big celebrities to get people in to see the crowds and everything, when really you can get like these voice actors, these amazing voice actors, one of them I'm talking to right now, to come in and like do the part brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly.
Oh yeah, but that's always going to happen if if they want to make money on it, they're going to get celebrities. And it's kind of funny to see all these celebrities doing anime, and there's a lot of celebrities that are anime fans. Like I was completely blown away. This completely blew me away. I get this email from Taj Jackson, who is the nephew of Michael Jackson.
Wow.
And he invited me to come to they have this annual Halloween party at the Michael Jackson estate. And the reason he invited me was because he was a Robotech fan.
Wow.
Which really amazed me. And I was like, I went. I had a great time. I even have a video on my YouTube channel of it. I mean, I just had so much fun. And, got to meet all those guys, and it was like, wow, and then I even posted something on Instagram, and Blanket liked it, so I'm like, cool.
That is fantastic. That is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's kind of funny because sometimes you'll see stuff on Saturday Night Live or something that'll talk about anime, and it's like or Conan O'Brien actually came into Bang Zoom and did a whole thing there.
that is incredible. That is fantastic. Well, I will say straight off the bat, and I've said this across in many of the interviews that I've done in the past, if people were to ask me, why is it that you do this? Why is it that you go to comic conventions in particular? And I will say this to the day I die, it's to go to meet the voice actors. You guys are my rock stars right there.
Yeah, I'd like to be doing some more conventions. Like, I'd love to go to Australia.
I will do everything in my power to make that happen, because speaking about to the listeners out there, this Saturday and Sunday is going to be Supanova Comic-Con in Australia, and I'll be officially attending that myself, and we're going to be getting ready for Oz Comic-Con later this year in the next couple of months. So I will do everything in my power to try to get you down in Australia. And to all the fans out there, let me know in the comments below, how much do you want to see Rebecca Forstadt at a comic convention in Australia? That would be fantastic.
I hope so.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, looking across at the whole of the entertainment industry, as we were just talking about, if you could change one thing about the entertainment industry, what would that be?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I would love to see more actors protected, because as I am getting older, and you realize, okay, like, you don't have all the security that you would have liked. The problem with a lot of these people that are doing all this non-union stuff is when they get older, they're going to find themselves without, like in the United States with Social Security or just a nest egg or, health care, things like that. And that's a big problem, I think. People are kind of being exploited. So,
Wow. No, that's definitely true. And it's definitely great that a lot of actors are starting to bring a lot of that to the forefront. And where, like, the best example, just mentioning about Kyle McCarley, where he was talking about this, it's like, it is a big deal with a lot of voice actors. And it's great that a lot of them are starting to bring awareness to something like this. So I definitely agree on that. And that's fantastic.
Well, I think partly, when I was a young actor, you just don't think about that when you're a young actor. You just think you're invincible and, you're going to become famous and whatever it is. And then when you get older, you realize, I should have put a bunch of stuff in place because, I mean, even big actors, like big movie stars and stuff that, when their star starts to fade a little bit, they find themselves in big trouble sometimes.
That is definitely true. And I think definitely for like and I think definitely with a lot of voice actors, it's definitely great to see they're bringing this sort of thing to the forefront, because yeah, because it sounds like from what I've heard about so far with all the other actors like yourself, Carly, all these other voice actors, they're bringing something like this to the forefront and are trying to do something about it, which is great. That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
but yeah, fingers crossed it'll hopefully change down the line. I definitely feel like it will. Not a question of if, more a matter of when though, I think is the big question to answer. But without going into any spoilers, what's next for Rebecca Forstadt for the fans to know about?
Right now I'm not sure yet. Like I said, I'm like, please, I'm still alive. Right now I'm like just sort of hoping something happens, and meanwhile I'm doing my little social media thing and having fun with that too.
But that's fantastic.
Hope I stay healthy and live for a long time.
No, but definitely. But no, that's fantastic. And this year is kind of what I consider to sort of be the year of normality, depending on what everyone's definition of normality is, especially after those last 3 years that we went through. If they can manage to get comic conventions to come back on board after God knows how long, we haven't had them at least here in Australia anyway, then anything is totally possible at this point. Just gotta wait. Just gotta keep believing.
I love doing those. They're fun.
Absolutely.
They're a lot of fun.
That would be
Plus,
fantastic.
I like to travel.
That's fantastic. And final question, what do you think Lin Min May would say if she was in Australia?
Oh man, she'd be excited. She'd go, "Hey guys, here I am. Let me sing for you." It's funny, somebody in Chile wanted me to sing. They wanted me to come down to Chile, and they said, "Well, we want you to do a concert." And I'm going like, "Do you realize it's like been 40 years since I did this?" Like, I'll be lucky if I can squeak something out.
But no, that's fantastic though. But no, that's absolutely wonderful. Rebecca Forstadt, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Oh, thank you, Simon. It was fun.
Absolutely. And is there anything you would like to say to the fans out there in Australia and in the world?
Well, to those of you who are my fans, I am just so excited that you are, that you like what I've done, and, let's hope we can see some more.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. Well, guys, if you'd like to find out more about Rebecca Forstadt, you can catch her on the new Code Geass movie, which I'll put a link to in the description below, and you can check out the other links, which I'll put to in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell, comment below, and don't forget to check out both my posts on my Facebook page and YouTube channel. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. This is Simon and Rebecca Forstadt signing off. Bye for now.